everyone, it's Melody with Design by Melody. I am here with my very first layout using the May 2018 Allie Edwards Story by the Month kit, and this is the one that is Father's Day themed. So it is it comes out in May, but it's really themed for June, and this is the very first layout I'm doing with it. So as you can see, it's really kind of a pocket card type of kit, but I wanted to challenge myself to see what else I can do with it other than just making pocket pages. So the very first layout I'm going to do is going to be really based around this stamp. So it was a stamp that said Father's Day, and I really wanted to do some repeat stamping. I've also kind of been drawn towards white patterned backgrounds or very simple patterned backgrounds. I guess I should say solid white backgrounds or very simple patterned backgrounds. And so I just pulled out a piece of white cardstock. Now it's kind of flimsy, so I'm going to end up having to back it on something else. But I'm just doing some repeat stamping here using this Father's Day stamp. And I'm just using my black ink. I'm using a Memento Tuxedo black ink. And then I am going to use a Stampin' Up! Marina Mist ink as well. I'm not sure if Stampin' Up! Still offers that same ink or not, but it's really just a nice blue color. It's a little bit on the darker tone. It's not aqua. It's definitely more of a blue, kind of like a dark baby blue, I suppose you could say. But I've just got a little scrap paper here, and I'm kind of staggering the stamping. So some of the lines are solid black, and then I've got a few little blue stamps mixed in there. Now I am going to also pull out a piece of washi tape and run it right down the center of my, well, it's actually kind of a little bit to the right of center. It wasn't exactly centered, and if I had really thought about this a little bit more ahead of time, I probably would have done it on the third mark. Like a third of the page, but it's kind of more, I don't know, I guess you could probably say it's like, I don't know, it's just barely to the right of center. It's not exactly center, but it's definitely not on the third mark either. So I'm just filling in. I had to use a scrap piece of paper down here on the left side of that stamping to make sure I didn't go over the white too far, but I'm just going to use this blue scallop. It's like a blue and white scallop, and it's a really pretty blue. It's very similar to the blue ink that I use, the Marina Mist, but that's actually a freckled fawn washi. Now my photo today is a photo, but it was really part of a Father's Day gift to Ernest when Kaylin was in preschool. So they took just some old CDs and they hot glued, or probably super glued because I couldn't get this photo off, a picture of themselves in the center of the CD, and it said, "Hey Dad, you rock. Happy Father's Day 2015." And it had a magnet on the back. I've been going through a lot of my old boxes of memorabilia here recently, ones that never made it into scrapbook albums originally, or things that I just found later, maybe things that had been sent home from school or anything like that. So I'm really kind of going through different things. Since we moved back in December, I have a couple boxes still with just random things in them. So I'm taking my time to really go through those things and I figure out what I want to scrapbook and what I want to keep and what I want to actually get rid of. And it's been kind of nice because I've had the opportunity to find more things like this, which is, it was on our refrigerator at our old house. So whenever we moved, I put it in a box, and it probably would have made it into some sort of like memory box or something at some point, but my favorite way to preserve these memories, of course, is in my scrapbook. So I think it's a perfect thing to add to my scrapbook. So now I've got my stamped background done, and that's really the major embellishment on this layout. It is the main focal point. I wanted it to be a huge piece of this layout because the CD itself is such a bold thing, and it's really got that like iridescent look to it, you know, just like CDs do, and it's just so bold itself. I wanted to make sure that the layout was able to stand on its own as well and not be overly embellished either. And if you have watched people unbox these kits, or if you've used ones yourself, you'll know that the Allie Edwards kits are not necessarily jam-packed with embellishments. So because it's more about the story and about the prompts and about, you know, having you think through what you're telling in your scrapbook. So I wanted the layout itself to be able to kind of stand on its own and not look so empty. So that's one major reason why I had used the stamping as my background. Now I did use a tag, a shipping tag from my stash, and then I used the one of the 3x4 card, sorry, I think it was a 4x6 card that had Father's Day, stories of the day. That was the top of the card, and the bottom of the card was just white. So I cut off that Father's Day label at the top of it and used that on top of the shipping tag that I actually have here, and then I did my journaling on there. So my journaling just says, this boy loves his dad so much. They have something so special. They spend so much time together, and that so much time together that they even act like each other. At this point in time, Kaylin was in preschool, but Ernest pretty much stayed home with him throughout, the day after he would pick him up. And when Kaylin was the youngest, he would only go to preschool twice a week, and then he went 3 times a week, and he didn't start going 5 times a week until his last year, right before he started kindergarten. So this was they really spent so much time together. I'm using a couple of the chipboard pieces that came in the kit. There's the one at the very top left, the circle that says Happy Father's Day. And then I'm going to use this one kind of off the edge of the shipping tag that says Love You Dad. And those are really primarily the biggest pieces of this layout. I'm going to add a few more things. I'm going to pull a piece of ribbon out here to put in my shipping tag. I have a ton of ribbon, and it's really ridiculous. I've got to kind of focus on using certain products from my stash because it is really ridiculous how much I have of certain things. I went ahead and back this layout on just on a piece of cream cardstock that I have that I probably will never use because I just don't scrapbook with cream backgrounds typically, but I just use that to back this layout. This layout is pretty heavy because it has that CD on the front of it. But the white cardstock itself was not a real thick cardstock, so it needed something to be able to just be more solid and be more substantial. That way it doesn't just kind of fall apart in my album. Now I'm cutting the very tiniest little piece off of this gray ribbon. It's just a scrap of gray ribbon that I had in my ribbon drawer, and I'm using my tiny attacher very unsuccessfully at first to staple that on there. And then I was just going to staple through the tag, but then it wasn't working so well, so I ended up going ahead and stapling through the entire layout. And that's just to get that ribbon on there. I could have tied it, but I just like the look of having it folded over and stapled. I'm also kind of going through to see if I want to add staples anywhere else on this layout, but I end up not. I just end up with the staples on the ribbon, and that is it. But I feel like I also want to add just a little bit more because it's looking just the slightest bit empty. And though I have that I Love You Dad or Love You Dad chipboard at the bottom right, I felt like I did need a little bit more of the aqua color. There is the aqua that kind of reflects off of the CD as you look at it, but I did pull out a few of these glittered enamel dots from Freckle Fawn. There's some ones that I've had in my stash. I bought them in one of their like crazy sales that they had, and I'm just putting those on a couple pieces or a couple different areas on this layout. And then I'm also going to add a date stamp. So I'm going to pull out a, actually I think it's a, what date stamp is that? That is actually a K & Company Smash Roller date stamp. I'm going to pull that out from my stash and add the date down here to the very bottom of this layout, just on a piece of white scrap cardstock. And it's using that same Marina Mist Stampin' Up! Ink that I had done the blue Father's Day stamping in. I had to try it in a couple places first, but it's going to settle down here at the very bottom, just very slightly overlapping the washi tape. And I feel like that brings a nice little kind of finishing element down here to the very bottom of the page. This finishes out my first layout. This is the first layout I'm doing with the May 2018 Allie Edwards Stories by the Month kit. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Please let me know if you have any questions whatsoever. And I will have another layout for you up soon using this same kit, but the next layout is going to be a pocket page kit. All right, guys, thank you so much. Bye.